I was like,
10
ew.
seconds. Mic's so hot. Watch what you say. 5 seconds. Get live.
I'd like to call this meeting to order. This meeting of the Auburn School Committee is being conducted in person and is being recorded by Auburn Cable Television. All are welcome to join us in person here at 5 West Street. All supporting materials that have been provided to members of this body is available on the town's website. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda. Thank you. Can we all stand for the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The vision of the Auburn Public Schools is to educate and prepare students for the opportunities and challenges of a changing world. Our commitment: we will create, maintain, and support an environment that fosters a sense of belonging for all students in our schools, respecting race, color, sex, religion, national origin, sexual orientation, gender identity, homelessness, poverty, spoken language, and ability. See no citizens to comment unless, Mr. Walton, you have any citizens' comments? No? Teaching and learning? Moved in, down to
We'll do
that?
special recognitions
Oh,
first.
okay, special
Yeah.
recognitions.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Co-Chair, but Chair for tonight. So a couple of recognitions this evening. First, we'd like to recognize our board member, Chloe Chang. She received the Worcester County Superintendent's Award recently. We had a lovely lunch at Holy Cross, and she was recognized with a bunch of definite overachievers from across central Massachusetts, and she made Auburn very proud for some of the accomplishments that she's taken on. She also received a National Security Language Initiative for Youth Mandarin Scholarship, conducting research on consumer trends in banking with an NYU professor, and received a gold award from the Queen's Commonwealth International Essay Competition. Chloe was also selected as a youth grant maker from Worcester County to allocate $25,000 in local nonprofits and has dedicated 148 hours to tutoring students from 32 different countries, ranking in the top 5% of the 14,000 tutors at schoolhouse.world. So we're proud to have her, proud of her accomplishments, and proud of all she's brought to Auburn High School. We'd also like to recognize this evening Christina Hawk. She was an MMEA All-State. She performed at Symphony Hall with the MMEA All-State Orchestra on Saturday, March 29th. She received the highest score in the state on timpani, a remarkable achievement. She also participated in the recent production of Pippin on the timpani, and a lot of the folks that play in the orchestra are, professional musicians, and she hung in there with the rest of them. So that was great. And also congratulations to the following student athletes for making the Telegram Super Team. Maeve Whittemore for field hockey, Zunai Moulton for soccer, Braden Belanger for football, and they will all be honored at a ceremony in June.
Congratulations.
Yeah, lots to celebrate.
That's awesome.
Should we approve the minutes first from the last one?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from April 2nd of 2025.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And no student representative report, correct?
Nope, that's
All
it.
right. Teaching and learning.
Yeah, so I'll get the ball rolling and then turn it over to Mr. Walton. So the Department of Education undertakes monitoring of public school districts on a cycle. This year, we are under some significant monitoring reviews. So I'll talk a little bit about what you see up on the screen. In your packets, there's both the PowerPoint as well as something that Greg is going to talk on, as well as the actual reports. I believe there's two reports in there that touch on what we're going to talk about tonight. But I just wanted to briefly mention the three different areas that we have undergone monitoring this year. The first is what Greg is going to talk about tonight, which is integrated monitoring review. And there are specific standards that we'll get into. The second area we had that I'm going to be sharing with you at a future meeting is targeted and focused monitoring, which comes from the Office of Language Acquisition. That focuses on our English language education program. And I'll touch on a couple things tonight because they are included in this review. And the last thing that we have undergone this year is our federal grant programs monitoring, which is our Title 1A, 2A, 3A, and 4A grants have all been under review. So I feel like, and I'm sure I know Greg feels this way as well, I feel like that's basically what we've been doing this year is dealing with compliance issues. But so what you see on the screen on the right-hand side and in your packets, that circle, that's the 6-year cycle that every school district undergoes in terms of monitoring. There's 6 years broken up, and there's a Group A at the top and a Group B at the bottom. And so each district in years 1 through 3 goes through a Group A monitoring, and then Group B goes through is years 4 through 6. And basically, years 1 and 4, whatever cycle you're in, it's a self-assessment. So that's what Greg and Caitlin and I, to a very small degree, did last year. Years 2 and 5 of that cycle are on-site monitoring, and Greg's going to talk about what took place this year. That's what we're in presently. And then years 3 and 6 in that cycle are continuous monitoring, where you're providing any information on areas that you have to improve on to the Department of Education, sharing that with the community as well. So I'll go to can you go to the next slide, Greg? So I mentioned Groups A and Group B, and this is how the Department of Education divides it up. So the Group A is highlighted in yellow because that's what we underwent this year. So it's universal standards around student identification, IEP development, programming, and support services, and equal opportunity. When we get into the next cycle, which would be years 4 through 6, then we'll be looking at those universal standards, which are on the right, which are professional development, community engagement, facilities, classrooms, oversight, time and learning, and equal access, as well as other things. So Group A is where we were this year, and then I'll just briefly talk about the process, and then I'll turn it over to Greg to get into the weeds with you. So the process around this integrated monitoring review is it starts with discovery. So that's providing the folks at the Department of Education with documents. We undergo a data analysis and provide them a lot of information. They then come into the districts and review records, conduct interviews, observations. Those were with, again, Greg will get into that. And then the closeout portion of that is if there are any areas that need improvement, there's a corrective action plan, and there are a couple areas that we'll touch on. And we have to submit progress reports to ensure that we, within 1 year, resolve anything that came up. As part of that process, there's something called pre-finding corrections. So those are areas that minor issues that might come up. They might say, hey, this is something that we noticed, or we might say, oh my gosh, this is something that we do. And the Department of Education is really good about approaching this not from a you're in trouble standpoint, but part of this is also improving our processes. And so pre-finding corrections are if areas that can easily be corrected before an issuance of the report, there's an opportunity to do so. So our process, Corey Steinman was the chairperson of the group. They were on site February 10th through the 12th, and then we received the report April 10th. And we'll take it from there, Greg.
So part of the review and the report that you guys have in front of you is just the standards. So if it's implemented, you'll see that there. But for partially implemented and not implemented, it requires a corrective action plan. So like Alan talked about, prior to the on-site review, we had a self-assessment, and mine started actually earlier in June, where I had to submit 3 indicators, and then in October I had to submit 13 policies to the Department of Education. So they looked at the policy, they send it back to me, they say they look fine, or here's what you're missing, and you can correct them. We only had 1 correction, and that was with our suspension, and then our indicators. We'll go on to the next slide. So indicators. So we had indicator 11, 12, and 13, and the department looked at specific dates. So they looked at October 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2023. Indicator 11 is looking at the initial evaluations and reeval timelines. Indicator 12 is looking at students that are referred from EI to preschool for special education evaluations. And then indicator 13 is looking at post-secondary goals for students in transition services. So we were compliant on indicators 12 and 11, and we were found non-compliant on indicator 11 with a corrective action plan. but I do have an asterisk there. So, in December of 2023, our school psych resigned. So that was part of our evaluations. So we missed a couple. We didn't miss a couple. We missed the timelines. At the time, they reviewed 29 files, 26 were compliant, 3 were not compliant. And the 3 students that were not compliant, they were actually in and out of the hospital at the same time because we did contract with outside school psychs. The only problem with that is the school psychs could only complete the evaluations after school, so it was hard to get kids to stay after school to complete the evaluations. So part of the corrective action plan that I submitted was we created a more robust list of school psychologists or independent school psychologists for contracting, and we actually hired a school psychologist prior to the school year ending. So we were posted on every single site you can think of until we found someone, and she's really awesome. So at the bottom, the statement, so then when the department came on site, they came back to look at if I actually followed the corrective action plan, and then they looked at certain files to see if we met those requirements, and we did, so we were found compliant when they were on site. I think you guys have this in your packets. It just gives you a little better view, so it tells you how many files were reviewed for the indicator 11, 29, 26 out of 29 we were compliant on, and 3 we were non-compliant. And those are the 3 students I talked about. For EI, it was only 1 file review, and during that time period, it was only 1 student referred for special education services. And then for transition, 35 out of 35 were compliant. So we were compliant in all our written policies and procedures. So out of 49 criterias, we were compliant on 47 of them. The only 2 that, and I'll get into this later, I kind of knew, and one of them we did know, which was the preschool ratios and the IEP timeline of getting the IEPs out to parents. So for preschool, the ratios are if you have 5 or more students with disabilities in a classroom, the classroom cannot exceed 15 students. When we started the school year, we were compliant. But as the school year goes on, we evaluate students move in, and then so the numbers increase. So going into this, we met with Corey. He knew about it. I asked questions, how can we correct this? And there's no right answer. A lot of districts do other things, like some districts will have just half-day programs. Well, we have half-day and full-day programs. Some districts will just have separate classrooms, which I don't think is beneficial for students in preschool. But this was our numbers. We had 17 students in the classroom, 6 with disabilities. And I think, the next one should say 7 students with disabilities and 11 without disabilities, which was 18 students. So we weren't far off. The other one was getting IEPs out on time. And I talked to you guys earlier in the year about this. So when I first started in my role, we did a lot of paper copies. So we would print out the IEP. It would come to me, I would read it. If I had edits, I would make the edits, scan them back to the team chairs, come back to me. So now that we have DocuSign, I don't have to do any of that. The IEP comes straight to me. I can read it on my computer. I can make edits on my computer, and it sends it right back to the team chair, and then we can get them out faster. So this year, we've been getting them out the same week and getting them back sometimes the same day signed if I sign it. So we already, I think, corrected that, but we still, like Alan said, we have to write a corrective action plan, so that'll be part of that. And these are just the standards that we were cited on, which is SE 18B, which is IEP timelines. And then the next one was inclusionary programs for students 3 and 4 years of age. And then this is Alan's part.
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier, the other piece of, so we had 3 major compliance reviews this year. So included in this review, in the special education integrated monitoring program, were the review of our English language education program. So they started including those pieces in because the Department of Ed wants to have everything kind of inclusive. So they used this phrase, which I don't love, but it's called prior noncompliance. And it was prior noncompliance because it was the report that came out in February of 2025 when they reviewed our English learner education program. So specifically, these areas, there were 2 areas that they included in this, and you'll see them in your packet. But the first is identifying that English learners at the high school may miss an elective or class required for graduation due to scheduling conflicts with them getting their EL class, which is a really difficult thing because they need to take that class. It's important that they're learning English, and so it's hard to identify because everything at the high school is identified as a class that kids need to take, and so this is also one of those kind of catch-22s. It's hard to identify how we get them that class without them missing something. So it's an ongoing conversation that we're having at the high school level to figure out how we move forward. But that is the CR 13 on there, and
I
then
can just chime in too. Desi didn't have a good answer for how to solve the problem either, because they need the EL instruction, but it's, obviously they're missing something else. I said, well, so how do places do it? They couldn't give us a good answer.
And I have an upcoming meeting with the people who conducted that review, which is why I haven't shared that review with you yet. They're still we're still finalizing our back and forth and what is called a continuous improvement monitoring plan. So I'll be sharing that overall report as well as our plan moving forward with you at an upcoming school committee meeting. But so you'll see this again at that next meeting. But these two particular ones fall under this review or are included in this review. And then the second piece up there, CR 18, is responsibilities of the school principal. In that specific one, they cite a curriculum, and that is something that we've been working on, is identifying a curriculum for our English learners, which is also kind of difficult because our English learners are in a variety of areas. So having a firm curriculum is something that has been difficult to put a finger on, and the state also recognizes that. We have a lot of resources around math, English, science, and social studies, but having high-quality instructional materials in English learner education is an ongoing battle. So we are not unique in not having that curriculum. And the other piece, there's a couple different pieces in here, but establishing personalized goals for attaining English proficiency. This year we added the Elevation program, which has been outstanding. Teachers as well as English language educators have been using that, but we're still getting that up and off the ground. And so every student who's an English language learner has a profile in Elevation, which is linked to PowerSchool, and teachers can go in and see that. But we're still in the kind of infancy stages of rolling that out and having everybody having access to that. So those are those two particular pieces that I just wanted to mention that are included in this, but aren't directly addressed through this process, but they included them in here because they fall under civil rights in those pieces.
To add to that, I don't know if they did put it in the report, but on the on-site visit, they did come to the schools that have quiet rooms. They interviewed the staff on the policies and procedures of using the quiet room and restraints, and we were compliant on all those also. And I think that's in the report somewhere. In the past, I think it was my second year here, when they did these reviews, they would interview a lot of people. They would interview the team chairs, they would interview teachers, they would interview the principals. This year, they interviewed CPAC and myself, and just the principals for the restraint and quiet room. So it was a little bit different this time around. So the next steps, corrective action plan. So on Friday, Alan and I are meeting with Corey, and we have to sit down and figure out what are the next steps to develop the corrective action plan, what it needs to include, and when we need to submit it by. And there are steps as we go along that we have to meet by certain dates. Statement of assurance, so we have to commit to implementing the corrective action plan, and then we have to share this with all the stakeholders, the staff, advisory groups, and the general public. So we had our debrief with Corey, and I thought it was pretty good. So, like I said, we were cited on 2 for special education. I think Alan was cited for 2 on equal rights, or civil rights, and I thought that was pretty good. So you see at the bottom, they were impressed that it was my first time, Alan's first time, and Caitlin's first time doing this review, because they thought everything was thorough. They gave Caitlin a compliment because they felt that her files were very, very organized, and they were impressed of how the special education department functioned because they thought it would be a lot more of us, but they said that everything was intact, so I was impressed. And I got to give Caitlin a shout out. She did a lot of work. She had the files ready for them in their office. When they came in, they were able to go right to work. They were supposed to spend 4 days. They only spent 3 because everything was so organized. So, any questions?
So For those areas that like even DESI isn't sure how to fix, what's the plan there? Do we have one yet? We're just,
For me, because I had to submit some others for some other things, is you submit what you feel is the right process. So like
Okay.
preschool, Al and I and Caitlin and Beth, we all look at the preschool ratios before the school year starts, and that's what we're going to submit, right? Like
Right.
we would monitor it, but things change as you go, you know.
yeah.
Yeah, and this was in the preschooler. It was a unique year. We haven't. I mean, we've encountered this problem before, but in already looking at people registering for next year, we feel like we're in a place where this isn't going to be an issue. But like we said, it is. There a lot of districts are in this situation who have programs like ours, and we had, I don't know, 2 or 3 different calls with people from DESI. Corey as well as others, and there isn't a good answer. In the past, you used to be able to, what's the word I'm looking for?
Apply for a waiver.
Oh, okay.
And they
Which I
did.
know that back with, when Rosemary Reedy was Director of Pupil Services, she did that in preschool, even though they denied that that could ever happen, but I know it happened.
Yeah.
Because what happens in preschool is you take on students who at 3 years old,
Right.
who may have special needs, but you don't know who they are. You don't know who's out there, who's going to be turning 3, who then you have to provide services to. So how do you plan for a number that you don't know what it is, right? So we've always done that. You always kept space. Sometimes the space worked out perfectly, and then this year we were a little bit over. It doesn't mean that they're not getting the services that they need, because they still get the services they need. It is strictly about the number of kids, that ratio.
And I was about to say, so then, like I said, mentioned earlier, some districts avoid that by having just half days.
Just
We have
half
the-
days.
Right, so we have the full days. But then the requirement is 1 teacher, 1 aide, but most of our classroom has 1 teacher, 2 ABAs, and an IA. So we actually are over the aides portion, but it's the student portion they're looking at.
Yeah.
And a lot of families benefit from that full time. And I think the kids probably do too.
Exactly, yeah.
Through the chair, how has been the move to like digital IEPs? Has that really worked out well?
It's so much. Sometimes I will send an IP, so I click sign, and 20 seconds later, a parent will click
Yeah.
sign, and comes right back to me.
I personally really liked it. I was curious how other parents thought. I think that like it's just quick.
We've had about 5 parents that have requested hard copies. But besides that, everyone, they like it, you know.
The preparation and the work, the copies, the mailing,
Yeah.
the getting it back, the
Yeah.
follow-up, they didn't return it.
And that's, yeah,
It helps a lot.
yes.
Yeah.
When parents don't return it, it was harder to track. Now in
Yeah.
DocuSign, you can see that it's still open.
Yeah, and I think DocuSign is the way to go. It's just I used to the big packet of like compliance. Like here's a 20-page yellow paper that you get, and I'm like, this is a way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Digital
Right.
safeguards,
Yes,
yep.
and I just said that's great.
Thank you very much.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Nicely done, and thanks to everyone for their work, because it is an enormous amount of preparation to have them come in, and to get everything ahead of time, so they really did a great job. So I was happy to see that Desi gave them a little pat on the back, too, so.
What are you going to do with all your time now?
Are you
She's gonna go
controlling
home
this?
after this.
I can get out of there. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too.
Good night, Greg, thanks for coming.
On to superintendent's report.
Thank you. So, under unfinished business, just to give an update, we are moving forward. We now have the support of Select Board and Finance related to the budget. That'll go to town meeting on May 6th. And we did land at the 3.81% increase. We have some work to do to figure out how some of this will play out. So far, there's still a lot of moving pieces, and there will continue to be, I think, till we get closer to the end of the school year. But I just wanted to thank the committee and the town leadership and community for the support that we've gotten with that. So we'll see what happens on town meeting floor. Just wanted to thank it says in your packet, 400 families. We are now at 500 families, over 500 who have registered for bus transportation. So let's keep that going. I will put out another reminder before May 1st to let folks know that the deadline is coming and the price will increase at that point. So, but we're off to a good start. So people are getting the hang of it, that we need this to happen earlier. So 500 is a good number at this point. Also, starting May 1st, our satellite and galaxy registration will open up. We're already receiving calls for that. So May 1st, that will be live, and folks will be getting an email from me about that. So we are well into next year already, so all good stuff there. If we move on to new business, in your packet, you do have handbook updates for each of the schools, as we do each year. I don't know if folks had a chance to review all of them. I don't see them as having, in my review, any major changes. Now, there could be a major change when we get to the cell phone conversation, but I think for the purposes of what we're doing now, the only big thing, and this is an addition in your packet, it has some little, it's, at the top, it says student failing protocol. It should be at the back of the, I think keep going, Brooke.
I think it's a separate, it's not
Yeah,
stapled.
it's a separate, it's not stapled. So that was something I had missed, that there was a link in the changes from the middle school. And this is a much more formalized process for any student who may be at the point or looking like they could potentially fail. And so what they're trying to do is formalize a process so that teachers know what to do, that then there's a meeting with the student, the counselor, team, then there's a scheduled parent meeting if things continue, right? So it's kind of an escalation of getting folks involved to support the student in being successful in the class. So it includes, if you go to the very back page, you know, check in regularly, that we're monitoring attendance, there are weekly updates to parents, in that throughout the process, there's an evaluation. Is what we're doing working to help the child be successful? If in 2 or 3 weeks it's not successful, it's the whole idea of going back to the drawing board to say, okay, so what do we do if this isn't working? So I did just add that in, so if the committee would choose, we can certainly move the vote for the student handbooks to the next meeting to give everybody a chance to take a look. That is definitely the biggest change overall, I would say.
So I'm just seeing missing assignments. Do they, in all grades, allow missing assignments to be passed in after? Or is that just like a FYI, this is why the grade is where it's at?
I think for this case, this is why the grade is where it's at.
Okay.
For the purposes of this process. But I do think that there are plenty of times where they take missing assignments, and
Yeah.
I suspect sometimes, but maybe they don't, right?
Right,
Where there might be
yeah.
a certain
Certain little
project or
teeth to
thing
it.
that's like, nope,
Yeah.
this is when it has to be
Yeah.
done. But for this, it's really to say, because the missing
This-
assignments are
yeah.
contributing to the failure, so what are they?
Perfect.
Yeah, through the chair, I would also just like to add on like my high school experience. Most teachers are pretty like accommodating with the deadline, so they'll be able to like extend it, and sometimes if you're out, they'll put in like a placeholder 0 to remind you that you need to submit it.
Oh,
Right.
nice.
Right,
Awesome.
and that's something too that families can see, particularly at the middle school level, right? So, but yeah, so it really is just about formalizing this so that it doesn't get to the point of no return, right?
Yeah.
That they don't get to the point that the student can't have success, even if there's a rough patch. That's the intent of this protocol, is to provide that support along the way. But we can certainly take some time to look over that if the committee chooses.
Through the chair, with the cell phone that is the hot topic for the handbook, is the committee going to have results so that we can just do it all at once? Do you know what I mean?
Well,
So
so
like,
I honestly am not sure. So that's the reason for bringing the majority of these forward now, and we may have to do a revision with an addition or a change down the road, specifically around cell phones or smartwatches. But I don't know. So we're gonna talk in a few minutes about the surveys themselves, when they're going to go out. We have a date to look at the data, to see what the data tells us, the committee does, the cell phone committee does, and then to make recommendations to you. Now, if timing all works out, right, we hope we can have that by the end of the year. I just can't commit to that yet, because I don't know what the data's gonna show us. I don't know what's gonna come out of the cell phone committee for a recommendation. It may be just to kind of stay the course, which then wouldn't require big changes. I don't know.
could we just, is it a big thing to just hold off and just vote on the handbook at the end of the year, since the handbook is for next year anyway, right?
Sure, I think we can do that.
I'm just trying to, I know how difficult it is to send a really large document of policies for students and then go, oh, by the way, we also have this.
Yeah,
You
and
know
I
what I
don't
mean?
know that they would be really sending these out yet, but it
till
would
the
allow
summer.
them to kind of formalize their changes in their handbooks. And then if there was just the one more change with the cell phone, that could be added in later, you know? So to get these approved now lets them at least get that document fully prepared.
Oh,
And then
okay.
just add it in.
And then just
after.
add in that one thing.
Because these, I don't think they go out till I mean, I don't remember even signing these before the beginning of the year.
No, no. I think the thing is, sometimes if we have a new student who comes in, right, like even at the beginning of the summer and they register, then if they meet with the, sometimes things work out, it's nice to be able to have it, even if there were a change further down, but up to the committee. We can wait. I don't know if we'll have the June 18th meeting. We often don't have that one. So that would mean, after this, we have town meeting, we have May 21st and June 7th, maymaybe? 6th,
Through the
7th.
chair, I completely get what you're saying. We were kind of talking about it
Yeah.
beforehand. But as we're listening, I'm kind of counting down and I'm going, oh, we only have so many meetings left.
There's only
And
a
that
few,
could,
yeah.
I'm thinking that could get pretty tight. So I kind of see where we should vote on this handbook now.
It
and
at
then
least lets the
adjust,
schools
then
get
do the
their wheels
amended.
rolling to make sure that what they want for changes are in there. And then if it's this one more thing that's gotta go, it's not a huge deal. It wouldn't be a, you know,
Yeah.
we've had to do that where there's been a minor change or something here or there, so.
Through the chair, it's fairly large working document. So I think it would be better to, I see your point, but I also think it's gonna be, it will be a lot for them to do it at one time, to get it out in time.
Yeah.
And then I really like the student failing protocol. I think it's really thorough. I think it's encouraging teachers to really like home contact. I think that's really important. A lot of times you have kids that are failing and you're not contacting home. And then like parents may not understand the Schoology or Power Score, how to even look at it. I've had some parents
Yep.
say to me, like, I don't even know how to get on. I'm like, okay, let me show you. But I like that it's really doing like kind of a behavior plan. So we can, everyone's on board. Everyone knows like this is why Johnny is failing. Johnny is failing because he's missing 10 assignments and he's not and he needs more time. And then maybe out of this might come like Johnny needs a little more extra help. Like where can we, or maybe Johnny needs to get evaluated. Like this, I think this would be a really wonderful tool, very thorough. I think it's great.
Yeah.
I agree.
I just had a couple questions on the policies. On the K-2 student handbook, I just see the exclamation point at the end, an adult must be outside waiting at the bus stop. If they want the exclamation point, I'm fine with it, but I just know sometimes that institutes like yelling. I don't know if that's too nitpicky, but either way is fine. Was that my only question? Oh, and dress code, that's just adding a little more teeth to the dress code, right? With
That was
okay.
not a big change.
Okay, yeah, that was all I had. I think it looks great. Thank you for your hard work.
Is it the will to vote tonight, or to move it to the next meeting, or to wait till the
I'm
last meeting?
comfortable voting.
Through the chair, I'm comfortable with voting on it tonight.
Same.
Same.
All right, I will motion to approve the updates to the student handbooks as presented for the 2025-2026 school year.
I'll second.
I need a first. Sorry, I'll entertain a
Oh.
motion.
I will make that motion to approve the updates to the school handbooks as presented for the 2025-2026
I
school year.
forgot the entertain word. Sorry.
Your turn. Go
I
ahead.
thought it was interesting. I second.
There it
It was
is.
interesting you said I moved.
That's what I thought you said too. That's why I paused.
It is
for a
exactly
second.
what I said. All
You
in
have your first
favor?
and second.
Aye.
Aye. Very confusing
All right.
today.
I don't know where my brain is.
The next item in your packet, you'll find the surveys that have been created for distribution to families, students, and teachers regarding cell phone use in our schools. If you have any changes that you'd like to make, the cell phone committee would like to distribute them following April vacation, so on that Monday. So if there's any discussion, I will tell you, I was telling Dr. McCrillis, we have a terrific committee. We have parents, we have teachers, we have administrators, and we have now have we're up to 3 students from the high school that have joined us. And so what we've ended with compared to what we started with are exponentially better. There was thought given, there's one particular question, that kind of goes across each of the surveys. I think it might be, double number now, number 6. How, do you think the use of cell phones impacts student learning? It improves, it has no impact, or it negatively impacts? We have a similar question on the other two. But there was a lot of thoughtful consideration to make sure that that we didn't sway the results by how the questions were worded, right?
I have to, Future, I have to say, it was pretty amazing to see what people were coming up with.
Yeah.
To go around these questions. It was really awesome.
It was a very thoughtful meeting with a lot of people chiming in and challenging one another a little bit, like, no, I don't think I agree with that, I think it should be this, even though respectfully so,
Yeah.
And you're correct. It was very respectful because everyone had their own opinions, but you could tell everyone wanted to get to a resolution that would benefit everyone, which was it was really nice to see.
Yeah. So, I don't know if you want to take a minute to kind of read through some of the questions, or if you have any feedback. The thing with creating any survey is they're never perfect. Sometimes at the end you go, we should have asked something this way. But at this point, the number of folks that have looked at it and kind of teased through it, I think we're at a pretty good place. So the intent is the middle school is going to do it during one of their flex blocks when we return from the break. High school's going to do it during community time, so that we're not just sending it out and see who, they're going to actually be asked to fill it out, so we should get a good response. Teachers will go out right when we get back. They'll get some time during the day to do that, and families, I think I'm going to give them probably 2 weeks. And a few pokes along the way to get some feedback from families, so I'm very curious.
I am too.
So
I
I'm
wanna
really
see,
curious with what's going to come
Through
back.
the chair, is this going out through that parent square? What is it called?
Yeah,
That-
we'll
Okay.
we'll send the link through Parent Square, yes.
Through the chair, if I could say, it's really nice to see that, the survey for the students and to have their voice heard in this. I think it's really nice.
Through the
Yeah, I
chair,
like
can
that
we
it's been
just,
done.
through the chair, it's me tonight, sorry. Can we just stress to the students that it is going to be anonymous? I always worry with surveys that kids are like, well, I'm not going to say this because then,
Yeah, and I think they'll probably know, because, I know when I sign in, right, on a Google form, right off the bat, it says, collecting your email, or is this your email, or fill in your email, and
Yeah.
there's going to be none of that, so.
great.
I did limit the students to one response, however, so. I'm glad I caught that. That could have been a problem, but, yeah.
Through the chair, I have just 2 questions. One on, this is the family cell phone use.
Yep.
On 16, that underlined blue, that's a link, so we can see the current school policy?
Yes.
Okay, and then question 4, maybe it's just that it's, I don't know, over past 6:30 and my brain's not working. I don't understand the question. What is the primary reason for supporting cell phone use in schools? Like, is that, what's confusing me about that question is, are we, like, I love what Auburn I love what Auburn Middle does. My daughter knows that when she walks in the building, that phone is off, in her bag, away. So I support her having it on the bus because I need to know where she is, and I like knowing that where she is.
Yep.
So, but that doesn't feel like what that question is asking. So I'm confused by that question.
Okay. So to me, what you're saying, I think your answer would be, I don't support cell phone use in schools.
Okay.
Right? But I
Yeah.
think I'll look at that, because I don't want it to be confusing.
Yeah, like I was like, maybe I should answer that for
So maybe it
safety,
should be,
but
if you support cell phone use
4.
in schools.
Yeah, if you support cell phone use in schools, maybe, because I personally, like, I don't want her to have it in school. If I need to reach her, like, there's other ways I can call the office, so on and so forth. That was my, it's weirdly questioned for me, I think.
I think as long as you put if you support and then do the
And-
question, I think that will clear it up.
And through the chair, I want to say, when we discussed this, we discussed this question at length, actually. And I have to say, I didn't say much at that meeting because it was really important for me to hear the teachers and the parents. And they all really kind of came up with the fact that it was really interesting to hear where the concerns lied for the teachers and then for the parents. And so I guess maybe because I sat in that meeting, I understand the question. Because a lot of the parents, there was a concern regarding emergency situations and things like that. And I do think the majority of those were high school students.
Yeah, but like in my mind, excuse me, through the chair, if there's an emergency situation, I'm assuming my daughter will pull the phone out of her bag and turn it on. But I don't support her having it on during the day. So to me, I was just confused. I think if you support it.
And then likewise, I think then the next question changes to say, if you oppose cell phone use in schools, what is your primary reason for opposing that?
I think if you qualify it through the chair, that it's clear cut,
Yeah.
you know, yes, I support, no, I do not.
Yep.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, if my daughter called me in the middle of the school day, I'd be like, shut off your phone and go to the office. But maybe that's just the teacher in me.
I think so.
Just shut it off and go to the office.
Because we
Okay,
do
well.
ask that question, if you, number 15, if your child did not have a cell phone in school, do you know the best way to communicate with them during the school day? Because we have so many families that communicate with their child during the school day. That happens regularly.
Yeah.
Whether they're in, they don't know if they're in class or in the hallway or whatever, and they're communicating with kids, and that's, so, and we wondered in the course of this committee, was it because they don't know how to get a message to their child?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say a little PSA. Call the office. They know where your child is.
They do.
You do not need to text them in the middle of class.
Through the chair, we discussed that as well. And it was like, are we going to overwhelm the secretaries
No.
with these phone calls? Well, you got to remember high school.
Oh, yeah.
These kids are in sports. They're taking driving lessons. There's a million things that take up their day. And when you have a house with two working parents and you're trying to get a hold of your child to find out, is practice canceled? Are they having it? You know what I mean? Those phone calls are starting to come in. Are we then overwhelming that? And that, you got to think it's not just that phone call now. They got to find the student. They have to relay the message to the student. There's a lot of factors that kind of come into place, when you hit that high school level.
I only work in middle school, so I'm just talking about middle school. You should have your parents, you should have your phones off and away in middle school.
Good points, though.
Through the chair. So for question 15, when you were talking
On which
about-
survey?
Oh, sorry.
that
The
the-
family cell phone use, when you were talking about that question earlier, when it asked, do you know the best way to communicate with them during the school day if necessary? I feel like that question kind of implies, like, what is, like, the best way? And maybe instead you could reword it, like, is there a better way to communicate with them without a cell phone? Because it was, like, a bit confusing.
Okay.
If your child did not have a cell phone, okay. I
Yeah.
had to read it again. Got it.
If your child does not have a cell phone in school, so how would the question read?
Because right now it's asking, like, do you know if there's, like, a good way to communicate with them? Is that, like, what you're trying to get across?
I'm trying to get across, if their child doesn't have a cell phone and they need to get them a message, do they know how to do that?
Oh,
That's the
okay.
way I read it.
Oh, okay, I get it now.
Yeah, because that seemingly, some of the people in the group said they believe that parents are going to want kids to have cell phones in school because otherwise they don't know how to communicate with them when they're in school.
Maybe, like, do you know if there are other methods to communicate with them? I think that would make it more clear.
I think what she's trying to find out is if the parent knows the number to the school.
Oh,
Like, I don't know if they know they can just call, or they can also email, like.
I would say they can email the
have plenty of
students through the
emails
chair.
of people, whether it's a teacher, or it's the principal, or it's the secretaries.
Student themselves has
Yeah, the
emails.
child.
Through the chair, the old principal at Packagug Elementary had a wonderful intro day for all of the kindergartners. And she posted a big thing, and everybody could take a picture of it and save it to their cell phone.
I think I still have that on my cell phone. That's why I contact her daily.
Little type A over there at Package.
I don't know if you knew the previous principal, but that was very helpful. So now the phone number's in my phone, so I can answer that question with yes, I do.
And I see 15 more for high school kids, because like my kids do have cell phones at school, but I'm not contacting them that way in middle school because it's off.
Right.
But I see Chloe's point with that, yeah. Having said that, I also really want to get this out tonight, so I'd like to get this approved tonight.
I think those, through the chair, those two little small changes, just to clear them up of
Yeah.
I approve, I oppose.
Yep.
Those two questions, I think the rest of it looks really good.
I think it's awesome.
There's no middling, you know what I mean? So that it's not like, there's no neutral
Right.
thing. It's either yes, you do, no, you don't. It's a policy, it's not. And then I do like, is there a character limit on the questions that you can like type in?
It's a long paragraph. We put it in for a paragraph, not a short answer, so you can type quite a bit in there.
Yeah, so as long as they can, have like 250 characters, God bless you all. I think they all look great.
Sorry, on the middle and high school, what are the current rules regarding cell phone at your school? Is there one about different classes? Because I'm wondering if we should have, phones are allowed in certain classes and not others. As a choice. Be good to know.
I think that makes it, through the chair, I think that makes it very complicated, because middle school, they don't have their cell phones.
Yeah.
Well,
At a high school level,
But it gives them the choice, though. Phones are off and away in the backpacks. So that middle school option is there, is
Yeah.
what they should pick. But that is that is a challenge at the high school. That in some classes they're allowed and in some they're not.
through the chair, I remember when they came in to talk about their media footprint,
Yeah.
and that still,
You know what?
gets me, you know what I mean? So, I think this is gonna be fabulous.
We'll see.
I would
I'm
love to get my
very
hands on
curious.
some data.
I'm
just
very,
saying.
very curious.
All right, can I entertain a motion to approve or amend the cell phone use survey with those minor edits?
I'll make a motion to amend the cell phone use surveys as noted with the two small edits as noted for distribution.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The next item is a quick one. So normally, we do have a meeting scheduled prior to the annual town meeting, which this year is on May 6th. And we just we normally take a vote this time of year as to whether or not we'll need the meeting. I don't believe that we will at this time. We have a heavy agenda this time. Our next meeting will be May 21st. So that's up to the committee as to whether or not we hold, and usually it's a short one. It's usually, a half-hour kind of thing, but
Right.
if we need it.
Yeah. My only thought is if we don't have it, I'd just encourage us to go to the meeting since our budget is on the agenda for the meeting.
And that's May 6th, correct?
Yes.
At the high school. Through the chair, I don't think we need to have one. And I'll be at the town meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll be
I
at
would
the
like to
town meeting.
nominate Brooke to be our person from school committee at that meeting. Make a motion.
I'll make I'll recommend a motion to not hold, entertain.
I will
Sorry.
make a motion to not hold a school committee meeting prior to the annual town meeting on May 6th.
And I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye. Through the chair, that meeting is at 6 o'clock, correct?
Yes.
All right, it's on my calendar.
6 or 6:30. Mrs. Stanek, do you have it?
hasn't been put on our calendars yet,
Okay, oh,
so I apologize, but I would say it's 6:30 because
She just said
it was, the school committee meeting was scheduled for 5:30 to 6:30.
Okay, so
So I
6:30.
think it's 6:30.
Okay, it is 6:30. Miss Mandy said it is 6:30,
there we go.
Great.
so that she's,
The birdie told us.
All right,
Boss told us.
the next item are school committee dates for 2025, 2026. So there's a list in your packet. It is very similar to what we did this year. Mandy did a great job, I think, trying to be cautious of holidays and those kind of things, that we don't step on any of that. We also, this year, we're looking at the MASC conference that's held in November, so that's November 12th, so we worked around that. We had to change a date last year, for this year because of that. So hopefully, we've avoided some of those pitfalls. So normally at this time of year, we do approve those meeting dates.
I'll entertain a motion to approve school committee meeting dates.
I'll make a motion to approve the school committee meeting dates as proposed by the superintendent.
And I'll second.
In favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So the next item nearly slipped by my radar, but you do have to evaluate me this school year. So I am going to take, you each have a yellow envelope with information in it. So I'm just gonna pull out Mrs. Harrington so I can go through what's in there because I don't have one. What's included in the packet is, first, the indicator rubric for superintendent evaluation. So that's the rubric from DESI upon which you can, you look to provide my ratings for. The next item is an update on my performance goals. So you'll see in yellow on that form, there's a January 2025 update and an April 2025 update, as I normally do each year. So that's just providing you with information and evidence related to the goals that I set for myself, those are also on the form. The next item, it says Dr. Chamberlain's examples of evidence for the evaluation. So these relate more to the overall rubric, so they're categorized by the rubric that's used to rate my performance. So there's a list of items there. And then you should have an end-of-cycle summative evaluation report with your name on it up at the top. And so that's the form that you fill out based on your opinion, based on the evidence of how you feel I performed this school year. You do have to, first in step one, assess progress toward goals. So again, you have the evidence toward the goals, so you assess the progress there, and then you provide a rating on each of the standards, and you can provide some comments. I think this evening, the reason for this is we need to set kind of a timeline, because we are running short at getting to the end of the year. Timeline for when your information needs to go to Chairperson Harrington for her to compile it into one summative evaluation. So we have the town meeting on May 6th, so our actual next meeting is not until May 21st. So I'm hopeful that maybe we could wrap up the evaluation at the May 21st meeting, which would mean, I think we talked about maybe May 9th,
May 9th, yeah.
which is a Friday, for you to have your information to Chairperson Harrington. So that gives her some time before the actual meeting to compile the results to be presented at that meeting. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So May 9th. All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to complete the superintendent's evaluation process in accordance with the timeline discussed, May 9th to Chairperson Harrington, and then May 21st to discuss at the meeting.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Good job on the motion. Thank you.
That's why I let you do it.
And if along the way, if anyone has any questions about anything you received in their packet, you can feel free to reach out, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. The next item, United States Department of Education request and DESI response. So a couple of weeks ago, we received information from the state that they had received communication from the federal government saying that each state, well, the state of Massachusetts, I don't know each state, the state of Massachusetts had to certify that we were in compliance with Title VI. Title VI addresses discrimination based on, the variety of race, color, those kind of things. And then along with that, there was a kind of an addendum to that about certifying that we do not use any funding for anything related to diversity, equity, or inclusion. And by signing the form that was sent to the state by the federal government, the state was assuring that no LEA, Local Educational Association, like we are, they were assuring on our behalf that we were doing the same, so that we were following Title VI and that there were no DEI initiatives. So other states have received this. Massachusetts, of course, being the state that it was, took this very seriously and worked with the Attorney General to craft a response. Massachusetts has selected to not sign this form, to not comply with the form that was sent. They did send a letter, which is in your packet. It comes from Interim Commissioner Tutwiler. So in your packet, you have the notification from USDOE that what they were doing, then the actual form that they asked us to, ask Massachusetts to sign, and then at the top it says DESE, it says USDOE to whom it may concern. That's from Interim Commissioner Patrick Tutwiler. And what he states in the letter is that we do comply with Title VI, we always have. Complying with Title VI is required in order to receive Title I funding. So it goes without saying, we have to sign off on all kind of agreements when you receive federal funding as such, and we all do that. So in the letter it says, yes, we do comply with Title VI. We're not signing the form. There you have it. What does this mean long-term? Nobody knows. It could, because you'll see in one of the forms, it definitely cites, that this is contingent upon your federal funding. So if we were to lose our federal funding because of this, we would lose about $980,000 between the money that goes for special education and our Title I, Title IIA, Title III, and Title IV money that we get each year. Those are entitlement grants. Those are grants that we don't have to apply for each year. It's based on our enrollment and demographics and poverty level and all of those things. That's how the federal government has always determined those. So the deadline to submit the form to the federal government was April 24th. So we've not even gotten to that deadline yet. But I think right now it's a wait and see for what happens. And who knows? We may never hear another word. Or we may find out that that we're not going to be, as a state, going to receive this federal funding, and that's another, the state of Massachusetts as a whole receives $2 billion every year in this federal funding. That's no joke. That's not, and for us, $1 million is no joke. That's, you think of the hit that we took with having to make the $155,000 cut a few weeks ago. I don't know what $1 million does. So in my mind, I can't even wrap my head around it to say, is there a plan? What would that plan be? What would that even look like for kids? I honestly don't have an answer for you. I know there's a ton of communications between the Superintendent's Association and the Department of Ed. Everyone is in this same boat right now. No one quite knows what this means for us. But I will tell you that I agree with the decision to not sign that form. I will say that. And that's my personal opinion. I do not speak for the committee or really for the district in that regard. But I appreciate the fact that the folks at these upper levels in the state of Massachusetts took the stand that they did, because it was asking us to do some things that would be very hard for me personally to swallow. So,
And through the chair, I applaud you for that decision.
As do I.
As do I.
well, we'll see what happens. Nobody, to me, there's nothing to joke about or nothing to play with when it comes to kids' education and with hurting kids. And I believe that if we lose that funding, we are intentionally and purposefully hurting kids, and I just can't make sense of that. I can't make sense of it.
And through the chair, when that came to my attention, I read through it, and I was happy to see that you were in agreement that the beginning was all about Title VI. And I'm reading this, and I'm like, okay, this
You do
isn't bad,
that.
this isn't bad, this isn't bad. And then I hit the last page, and I was like, oh, no. So it is, I'm glad that Massachusetts has decided to send this letter, and I think that we need to, what's best for kids is not signing that.
Agree.
So time will tell, right? Time will tell. I think we're in uncharted territory, but I feel like it's important for you to know. And now that I've shared this with all of you, I am going to send the same documents on to town leadership, because they should be aware as well that there's a potential for that to happen.
Absolutely. All right.
All right. Next, quickly, returning student registration. That's also, on here, it says it's gonna go before April vacation. Everyone has advised me, don't send anything before April vacation, so I'm going to send it right after April vacation. And so that will be coming, again, a very familiar process, well, a process becoming more and more familiar for our families, so that's a good thing. So that will go soon as well. And that's all I have.
All right. Business and financials, our favorite part of the night.
All right, well, thank you. In your packet, we will start with an updated site manager job description. We have updated it, who supervises our buildings, so site managers supervise our buildings and fields when they're in use. So this is kind of going hand in hand with our facilities usage and streamlining the process and ensuring that everything is up to date. So this job description had not been updated since 2010. So most of it is very similar. One of the things that has been added is that the business manager would also oversee it as well, to ensure
Some additional oversight.
additional oversight.
I think the one thing that came out was there was something about punching a clock
Oh, yeah.
that we don't do anymore. So we took out the punching the clock. But for
And
the
to-
most part, it's the same.
Right, and to ensure that it incorporates all of the things for multiple buildings. Some of the things were very specific just to Auburn High School, but we have site managers that go into Auburn Middle School quite a bit as well. So I'm asking for your approval so that we could actually post for some more site managers to support our facilities usage.
I'll entertain that motion.
Through the chair, I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is just additional jobs. Let's say there's a teacher in the middle school and says, "Oh, I can do this," or "This is a different job." This is like a with her job, his or her job, or this is not. Like this is a whole different person.
This is a whole different position. We have people that work during the school day for our schools, but also will pick up the positions at night when, the community comes in to use our gym for practices.
Okay.
So then this is a whole separate position
Outside the school day.
outside of the school day.
Outside of the school. I'm just trying to, like, when you're at Swiss using the gym, the site person is right there. You can ask them any questions, like where the bathroom is.
Correct.
When you're at the middle school, you have no idea who that is. The door that's open so the people can use the bathroom is not marked. And then I don't know what it is at the high school. I haven't been at the high school for anything, but I didn't know if that was a person that was going to be easily identified, that had to be there, or this was just,
Are you talking for outside sports?
this is, no, so for the town youth sports, any of them, basketball, soccer, football,
But if it's
lacrosse.
a regular, and so this.
This
we
is
went-
outside of the school day. This is Saturday morning or Sunday or
It is, but
Monday
if,
night.
but if it's just out on the fields and they're not accessing restrooms or anything like
Mm-hmm.
that, which sometimes that's the case, we won't have a site manager there for that.
Okay.
So that was some part of the conversation with the fee schedule, like
Right, right.
when a site manager really needed to be there.
Right,
So
right.
certainly, if you're inside the middle school using a gym, someone should be easily recognizable.
Right.
If there's an issue, for sure. Somebody spills Gatorade someplace or,
And they're always right there.
Yeah,
at
through the
least.
chair, they're right when you walk in the door.
Right.
don't know about
When you're
outside.
using the gym for basketball that is in a gym. I was here on Monday, and I knew the door was open because someone told me that the door was open so that we could use the bathroom for the kids that were using the field. But I was one of two people, and you had all of U8, U10, and U12 soccer on that field with the Revolution
So
from
that's something that
5:15.
that's something we have to follow up on, because that door probably shouldn't have been open.
yeah.
So that's what I was thinking, but then other people were like, well, why don't we have facilities if you're having these little kids? And I was like, I don't know why you're yelling at me. I just said that that door was open
So the thought with the fee schedule, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when they're doing practices outside, so like soccer or whatnot, during the week, they're not gonna have the bathrooms and stuff, because that would cost the site manager, and then that would be a lot of cost on our leagues. Whereas, like indoor basketball, they're in the school, so there would be a site manager who's usually seen. On the weekends, you know, you have a lot more,
Game days,
Yeah,
like what you would
people
call game
watching.
days for those.
Right.
Where you have people coming to
Yeah.
spectators, then that would be different. There should be a door open someplace for a restroom. But we're not doing it across the board, and that was somewhat of an agreement with the teams as well, because they don't want to pay for a site manager then either.
And just through the chair, along with this, what we're trying to do is we're also looking to build our pool of site managers, because there's been times that, you know, we haven't been able to get site managers, and sometimes then we would have to cancel something or whatnot. But also, I am working to have a refresher course or training, I should say, with all of the site managers that we currently have, to review all of the expectations. And then we will do a training with all of, if any site managers come on board, that we do, to discuss. You need to be visible, you know, you were the person to support the families and whatnot, and what the do's and don'ts.
Okay. So this person is overseeing the people, like, for instance, basketball that you can definitely see that's here. This person is overseeing those people.
Yes,
Got it.
yes.
I was just trying to figure out where we are in the,
No,
you know.
And through the
absolutely.
chair, I know that in previous years when we did play soccer over here, I always assumed the building was closed, even on Saturdays. So if we had to use a bathroom, I took a walk over to, you know, Duncan. So, I mean, I just assumed the bathroom was closed. I never even knew the bathrooms were open. So,
Not supposed to be during the week.
yeah, and well, even on weekends, I just assumed they were
Oh,
closed.
yeah.
And so you have to go to the bathroom. All right, well, go to the bathroom before you come. You know, so I just always assumed. So I just never.
And it all depends on whether or not we were able to
Yeah, yeah.
get a site manager as well, because sometimes we're not able to. So we want to increase that pool. We want to retrain those that are there, and really be able to support our community and our community events, but also ensure the safety of our attendees, and also, you know, watching over the buildings and everything as well.
I do have one more question. At the middle school, from my understanding, I've actually never accessed them, but is there a set of bathrooms that where you can lock
The rest of the school,
the rest of the school?
I don't think so.
Okay, someone told me that, and I was like, well, then leave those open, and then
You think there is?
There isn't on the back side of the
I
building?
thought there
When they're
were.
outside, yes.
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 Is that what you're
outside.
asking?
Yes.
Yes,
So
when you're
like-
outside on the fields, and that is game day, you're supposed to have a site manager. It is my understanding, now, again, trying to streamline this, trying to
Right.
retrain everybody, that there are bathrooms that can be opened that do not access the building.
There is outside, yes.
Yeah, so I think, like,
Inside, no,
that-
outside,
That's what it
yes.
was. It was a random door on the side of like in the back of the middle school building. And I was like, oh, that's open.
So that would
am
be the
with-
restrooms that should be opened, but it does not have access to the building.
Correct.
Right, okay.
yeah, so like that to me is less scary than the building
Yeah.
being randomly open.
No,
at
no, no,
5
it's not.
o'clock. I'm
No,
like,
no, no,
You know,
it's
like,
not.
whoops, that door shouldn't
Yeah.
have been open. But
Yeah.
if it's just two restrooms,
It's restrooms for
Yes.
the use of the facilities.
so to me, that's
So,
a little
yes.
bit safer
Exactly,
than.
yeah.
That does not have building access.
Okay,
No.
yeah,
Yes.
that makes me happy.
Yep.
Great. All right, I'll entertain the motion to approve.
I will make a motion to approve the updated site manager job description as proposed by the business manager.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And then next, I have before you a policy, a school committee policy that was updated in 2019. However, one of the things that we noticed was missing is that when we do a reimbursement for travel, it is aligned with the Internal Revenue Service standard mileage rate, which typically changes every January. So I am looking to, this is your first reading of the policy. I'm happy to answer any questions.
capital improvements.
All right, so in your packet, you will find an updated CIP budget for fiscal year 2025. We were unable to repurpose the Bryn Mawr Building Rehabilitation funding for the purchase of our new K-8 math curriculum. So this requires your vote of approval to be sent to the town, returning the requested funds to the Bryn Mawr Building Rehabilitation.
We had shared this at the last meeting, the $75,000 that now we're going to put off for a year. So that's what, it's just correcting this document.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the amended capital improvement budget for FY 2025 as presented by the business manager.
We are having a
will
day
second.
today.
All those in favor?
Aye.
There's a vote.
And then finally, I have provided you with a year-to-date budget report for the FY '25 school year dated April 10th, 2025 for your review. And I did not prepare any budget transfers at this time.
Okay. And do we need executive session?
Do not.
All right. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I will make a motion to adjourn.
I will second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.